Hello and good morning. Thanks for tuning in to Carolina's Mortgage Radio, the number one show for mortgage and real estate. We are into 2020. We got a great year lined up in the real estate industries. Interest rates remain low. The market remains hot, and we believe it's going to be a fantastic year. So, how can you take advantage of it? We're going to give you the tips and tools on how to do that today. Here, we've got Marissa Stauffer here in studio with us with Helen Adams Realty.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Good morning, Melissa. How are you?
Good, good.
So, any outlook on the new year, just personally with you?
Well, I quit making resolutions a long time ago, so
Yeah.
I just kind of roll with it, have a positive outlook, and just forge ahead, see what can happen.
Yeah. I didn't make any resolutions either myself. You always see these motivational quotes on
Mm-hmm.
social media and stuff, and they're great, but it always comes down to action and execution,
Yes.
and so try to focus on that piece here in 2020 and with every year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, again, thanks so much for joining us here. I think we're going to have a great show. Lots of good information to give out to our listeners today. Kind of give us a background on kind of your experience in the industry and kind of what has got you to this point, and what you're thinking that 2020 is going to bring for our community in the real estate industries.
Okay, well, I started real estate over 4 years ago, and I started on a team in the TKK area. I've been in sales for quite a long time and working with the general public. And as a real estate consumer, my husband and I had some pretty interesting transactions. And I thought, wouldn't it be really cool if I could take my experiences and help other people as they go through the process and really just kind of empathize with them and
Yeah.
be on their level with them and use my sales and people background to, and teaching background to, you know, work real estate and just see what happens. And that's what I did. And it's been phenomenal. I moved to Helen Adams a little over a year ago, about almost a year and a half ago. And it's been a great move. It was after I had a baby. And so I made some pretty big changes all at once, which is
It's
what
a
I.
lot of changes. A baby's
Yes.
change enough for sure.
Yes. But I realized that I wanted to do this business kind of more on my terms and my schedule of how it best suited my family.
Sure.
And so I took a leap and started listing homes as well. And so really 2019 was all about just learning so much and taking a leap of faith and seeing what I was capable of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the real estate industry is fantastic to give you that, that type of
Hmm.
freedom to work, how it fits into your family. But I think there's this misnomer that it's not a full-time job. It certainly
Oh,
is. You've got freedom within that, but
yes.
it's you're kind of like a doctor in a lot of cases. You're always on call, and
Yes.
so you're always working. But you do within that always working time frame, you've got the little bit of freedom and flexibility to fit in the things that are certainly important to you, like family.
Absolutely. Going to my son started kindergarten this past year and being able to attend his Christmas performance in the morning during the
Yeah.
week. Stuff like that,
Right.
and when the kids are sick because daycares equal
Right.
germs. um, you have the flexibility to work around your partner's schedule as well and just make life happen and do what you need to do as a parent. But yes, you're absolutely right. It is not traditional hours.
Right.
You're at other people's, what fits into their time frame to see homes or to meet with them about listing. But it is a very fulfilling career. So
Certainly.
worth it.
Certainly. You're listening to Carolina's Mortgage Radio. I'm your host, Brandon Kohlberg. We've got Marissa Stauffer here in with Helen Adams Realty. You had mentioned in your prior to becoming an agent, Marissa, you kind of went through the process of buying homes
Hmm.
and had some interesting transactions. We love stories. We love hearing our client stories, other people's client stories. Tell us what that looked like from your perspective, and maybe even how you've used that since in as you've become an agent in your career and working with your own clients.
Sure. Well, my husband and I decided to purchase our first home at the pit of the market, and our agent took us to new construction. And of course, we didn't realize exactly what that meant, but of course, new sounds like a lot of fun, and you
Sure.
get to pick stuff out and you
Right.
get to watch it be built. So during that process, we were there all the time, checking in on things and just keeping an eye on it and having a presence, which people told us was a good idea. And we got through the end of it, and we caught little things along the way that made us unsettled. And
What were some of those things? Because just to break it down, so you're buying new construction,
Yeah.
you're starting out early in the process to where you essentially get to almost design your own home, and
Yes.
the house hasn't even started built yet.
Right.
So you go through this whole process.
Yes, you pick your
Okay.
lot, and
Very
then
good.
you decide, exactly what floor plan you're going to put on that lot. And then you go to the design center, and that, of course, is like the most exciting part. I still love going to the design
Yeah, it's
center
a good
with my
time.
clients. Good time. I was at one yesterday.
Nice.
And so then you get to go through and watch it all be built. And then, of course, I always tell my clients, it's like a roller coaster. There's
Sure.
going to be some really exciting times, and then it's going to slow down and look like nothing's happening. And then it's going to pick back up again, and we're all going to get to the end, but there's always questions along the way. I would say there were just little things as far as flooring challenges. Are they installing the right counters, which they weren't? And
no.
but these things happen in new
Fairly
construction,
regularly.
right? Because they're built by people, and mistakes can happen. So it's always important to have somebody you're either there, or your real estate agent could be there. And we had a third-party home inspection because, as a lot of builders will tell you, that you have inspections along the way, but it's county and city and that kind of thing. It's
Right.
always great to have a third party come in
Right.
and inspect your build. And we did at the end, and water started running down our garage walls, and there was a burst pipe. And long story short, we ended up backing out of the contract and the build. That was, I will never say the builder's name or anything like that, but what it taught us was how important it is to have a third-party home inspection. And along the way,
Yeah.
had we possibly had one pre-drywall, we could have caught the issue before the rest of the house was built and not gotten to that point.
Yeah.
And to protect yourself in the process. That amazing salesperson. I've worked with tremendously talented salespeople in new construction, and they're phenomenal. They do represent the buyer or the builder in the process.
Sure.
So, we learned a lot from that, and how builders build differently, and you just kind of take that with you. And then we built again.
Okay. Yeah.
So we've built a total of 3 times, but after our second build, I thought I can just help people understand the process, because I've been through it a couple of times, the good, the bad, the really ugly. And so that really kind of planted that seed. And yeah.
Yeah, they say, or maybe they don't, but I certainly know it to be true. Sympathy is good, but empathy is so much better.
Yes.
When you've actually walked through those experiences and now able to counsel or help others walk through that process, because obviously going through building a house is a fun but can be very
Yes.
stressful situation. And then you show up to your house and you've got a bursted pipe and flooding water everywhere. That can't be too much fun to see your
Yeah.
house kind of going underwater.
Well, no. And then you have expectations of what will be fixed, and that's not necessarily the case. I always tell my clients, trust your gut, and I will present you with the best information possible to make your best decisions. But at the end of the day, it's their financial investment. It's their home that they're going to live in, and they need to be comfortable with their decision. So even though it can be really hard to make
Yeah.
those big decisions, we're forever grateful for where we ended up after that home. And then starting a career from not such a great experience,
Right.
and turning it into something where I can genuinely talk to people about the process and the do's and don'ts.
Yeah. Do you kind of share those experiences with your clients? Yeah.
I do. Absolutely. I don't go into like super detail. And like I said, I don't
Right.
talk about who the builder is or anything like that. And I just keep it as here's what I recommend. And if you're going through the building process, I want you to take these steps. And it's a small investment in your financial future, really.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started in the mortgage business back in 2004. When kind of the middle of the original refi boom.
Yes.
And at that time, if you got 5.5 on a 30-year fix, you were like ecstatic. So totally different time frame. And then of course 2008.
Yes.
Markets start kind of imploding. Charlotte's relatively exempt from that until about later 2009 when the banks implode from that. And having gone through all that, I was actually owned my own construction company. I was building these very, very nice houses in the Dilworth Myers Park area, and then so everything was great, and then it wasn't.
Yes.
And so having gone through that, going back to the empathy piece has been very great for me to understand that we all go through so from a mortgage side, from a credit standpoint or income, we all have our personal challenges, and so that's certainly helped me work with my clients a lot better and a lot more empathetic for
Yes.
for credit challenge clients, which we work a lot with, and making sure that we're giving everybody fantastic service. It's just been a big blessing for me to go back to my experiences and kind of walk people through that.
I think sometimes, especially with first-time home buyers, they have a perception of, real estate agents or loan officers and, people in the industry. And when you can show them, even through your own stories that, hey, we're just like everybody else buying a house. Like, we go through the exact same things. We've had good and bad experiences, and you can, get on everybody on the same level. That's, the relationship part of it. And that's what helps. Yeah.
And experience is so key.
Yeah.
Having personal experiences and having bought and sold many new construction homes like you have. I do a lot of real estate investing, and so having those experiences and I've had some, credit and some income challenges in the past, and being able to work with clients based on my experience is, I think comes across very genuine.
Yes,
and from a very, kind of a teaching standpoint, very much a teacher. So that's certainly what, kind of how we've, built my business, and I'm certainly grateful for that.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because that's a lot of how I try to come across. I am not big on the word selling.
Right.
In any, career that I've been in before real estate, I've been a licensed esthetician and cosmetologist for about 14 years now.
Nice.
And so even working in the spa industry and, talking to people about products and things like that, it's the same like with real estate. I want to break down for them the important steps and why they're important to them and set their expectations. That to me is the biggest thing I learned in my first year of real estate. Was clearly setting expectations. If you answer the phone for somebody at 10 o'clock at night, once they expect that you're going to do that every single time. And, when you don't, they're going to not be happy about that. So really setting your expectations of what your clients expect through the process, but also how things might go for them down the road. But education is so key because it really comes across, like you said, more genuine, and they want to know the why behind what you're asking them to do. There's a lot of trust there. If you can give somebody the process behind it and the education of it, I really do feel like that helps in the trust and the relationship as you go through the process.
Definitely. You're listening to Carolina's Mortgage Radio. Call us anytime during or after the show if you've got questions. We've certainly got the answers for you. 704-999-6646. I'm your host, Brandon Colberg. Call us anytime during or after the show. We've got Marissa Stauffer in here in the studio with us, Helen Adams Realty. Marissa, you kind of talked about, tailoring, talked about expectations, setting the proper expectations, but kind of tailoring a kind of an outline of the process for your clients. Is that something that's made to order, or is that kind of a one size fits all? Or, how do you, when you're meeting with a new client, what does that process look like?
So I'm glad you asked, because there are points that do relate to all clients. And even if they're purchasing their first house or their 10th home, the process has changed between, their experiences. So
changed pretty rapidly in this
yes,
business,
it does. I think like every year we get a new contract, so we'll talk about that later.
Right.
But I think it's important to remember that, it's most likely their first experience working with me. Yep. And there are phenomenal agents in our area. I've worked with some really great people and love to do business with co-agents, because I always feel like you can learn something from somebody else and have a good time. So really it comes down to, yes, these are the steps of buying the home, but also feeling each other out as far as personalities and making sure that we're a good fit. So that initial appointment, you want to make sure that they want to work with you and that you want to work with them. So there are questions that, we'll go over pretty much with every single client, but everybody's journey is different. So you are going to tailor it to what is their motivation. Everybody's motivation can be different. What are their needs in the process? Are there any special needs to consider for them? And their financial status, may determine, we're going to be 3 months out from buying a home, or we could be 3 years out. I've had clients start the process with me and close 3 years later, but you connect with them right from the beginning and you stay in touch and you follow up. Yeah. And at the end of the day, everybody's happy. So it is, there are common factors in each, transaction, but everybody's different and you should definitely treat them that way.
That everybody is definitely different, right?
Hell yeah.
You mentioned special needs. Every client's got, different needs, and some of them are, sometimes insignificant, sometimes they're significant. I think most people, though, even if they've bought or sold, a few homes over the course of their life, it's not something that they're doing certainly every day or really even every year. How do you kind of help them identify what their needs are? I think, when a guy goes to a doctor, we just, we don't really say anything, right? Like, how do you get these clients to actually address what they may not be knowing they need to address? So,
there's a phrase, we say in the industry, you go 3 deep with your questions. Cool. And so I can ask you, Brandon, tell me, what size yard are you looking for? And you might say
half acre.
Half acre. Great. So why is that important to you? How do you plan on using this yard?
Well, I've got 2 dogs and I'm looking to grow that.
Okay. So in that, when you say you're looking to grow that, are you breeding the dogs, or are you
I'm contemplating, yeah.
Okay.
I think that's something I'd like to get into.
All right. So we may need to look at neighborhoods that don't have HOAs and restrictions on breeds and breeding. Does that sound reasonable?
It does. I'm breeding pit bulls.
Oh, yeah. We definitely need to, it's going to help us narrow down our search. And are you okay with that?
Yes.
Absolutely. All right. So you can see, like, you're telling
fantastic
me,
example.
A half acre. When I put that into the MLS, we're going to get a number of things. And I also let people know, especially if they're looking in York County now. I used to say Fort Mill, TKK, but even Rock Hill's a lot like this as well. You can have a half acre on paper, but that doesn't mean half the yard isn't sloping in one direction or the other and isn't usable. So that's why I need to know, are you putting a place at out back? Are you putting in a pool? Do we need to watch out for those restrictions? And animals are a big one. So, yeah. Yeah,
certainly, a lot of HOA restrictions on types of animals, too.
Yes.
And certainly, I don't think any HO would allow like a breeding ground for.
No, so that will definitely limit somebody's search.
Right.
That.
Excellent. Anything else kind of like during that identification process for laying out, kind of the outline for the client, or is that kind of run the gamut of, setting the expectations and, identifying those needs with going 3D, which I'm so glad that you brought up, because I think in so many different ways, in so many different industries, communication, is such a lacked skill.
Yes, it's hugely important.
And being able to, when someone says something, there's always a deeper belief, right? And getting to that belief, you have to, ask questions and be intelligent and skillful enough and be a great communicator to really uncover what the actual belief is and the need and the desire. And
Right.
so obviously you do that. And so that's fantastic.
Yes, and I would say the other thing too is just with communication, ask them, how do you prefer to be communicated with? If I have somebody who's very much like opposite my personality and they love charts, well, I like charts, but if they love spreadsheets and they're very engineered mind and they just need quick responses, they don't want like a 4-page letter on why they need to get this done. They just need to know what to do and when it needs to be done. So I'm going to ask everybody, how do you prefer to be communicated? Who's the point person that I need to reach out to during the process? And I know they're simple answers, but it tells me a lot about the person that I'm working with as well. So, and then just paying attention to people's body language and their facial expressions. When you ask certain questions, you can know whether or not you need to pull something out of them and dig further.
Yeah. Whenever I get a mortgage application and the borrower's employer, their job occupation is engineer,
Yes.
I know I'm going to be spending a lot more time, with that
Details.
client, going through every item of a contract, every word of the application. I just know it's going to be a lot more detailed process.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes. So it's good to know
Got it.
how to work with each personality.
For sure. You're listening to Carolina's Mortgage Radio. Call us anytime during or after the show. I'm your host, Brandon Kohlberg. You can call us at 704-999-6646. Got Marissa Stauffer in here in studio with us from Helen Adams Realty. So, you do a lot with new construction. We talked about your experience in new construction, having built and bought several homes, had rough experiences to good experiences. Kind of give us, I think the most recent one was a good experience.
Yes, phenomenal experience.
Walk us through that kind of process, what that looked like for you, and then let's talk about kind of the ins and outs of new construction.
Sure. So I always, when we talked about communication earlier in the show, from the beginning, this builder was really big on communication. Like, we definitely had the same goals in mind. And so I knew right away that it was going to be a different process than we'd had before.
Right.
And setting expectations. They set our expectations and they were more detailed about the process. So they wanted us to be more in the process than any other builder that we had dealt with as well. We did hire phase inspectors to come in and look at the construction throughout the different build phases. And so even from footers and pre-drywall and after the electrical was put in and after the insulation was put in, all these things, they had nothing but really great things to say about what they saw. And
Wow.
I've worked with these inspectors many times in the past, and I was like, wow, I am building a solid home.
Yeah.
So it made it a lot easier for me to, I think I've put close to 20 people in our neighborhood. And it's easy for me to talk about that excitedly when it's been a great experience. So, how the they use products that are above code, right? They build with bigger pieces of wood, how they strap things in for hurricane straps in more areas than a regular builder would. Insulation, the selections of how you can upgrade your home structurally, right? We all know that there's like 80 different tiles we can choose from in a design center.
Right.
But when you also offer additional insulation or 3 different levels of HVAC systems, that to me says a lot about the builder and their pride in what they're building.
Yeah, I was very impressed. I've built, as well with them, closed just almost a year ago now. And, I too was very impressed with the process. We do, it's really just a fantastic, I guess, kind of building block to, to incorporate things into our business, how they do things.
Yes.
They did and I've done actually a Tuesday update for all my clients for years. I think they did theirs on Monday.
Yes.
But every Monday, the builder gives you a phone call. It
Yes.
kind of runs you down the previous week, what they're looking to do this week. And over a, 6 month, 7 month, 8 month build time, whatever it may be, that's just a lot of communication. And so you're always in contact, and that's extremely valuable. There's too many times in new construction business and just maybe you're just buying an existing home with just a 30-day window. They're in touch every week. You can go through a 30-day process and only get maybe a couple updates through the process. How frustrating that can be. So so many things that they did during that process to make it a fantastic experience. And look what it's resulted for them.
Right, exactly.
Great for anybody that's wanting more customers or just to provide a better experience. They provided such a great experience to you, a real estate agent.
Yes.
You've delivered 20 new clients to them in the last year.
Yeah. Well, in the last couple years. But yes. And even, in another one of their neighborhoods. And now even with the other builder coming into that same neighborhood, I've gone through the process with people as well. And they're under the same parent company. And you can see a lot of the likenesses, even though it's at a different price point. The quality of construction is there and the clients are very happy. So it definitely makes it easier to sell something when you're excited about it.
For sure.
Yeah.
So let's kind of pivot just slightly and talk about, kind of the new construction, buying a new construction home.
Yes.
So we kind of walk through the process of, making sure that you're having third-party inspectors through the process, making sure, a lot of people think, let's talk about the one thing real quick. A lot of people think, hey, if I'm buying new construction, I don't, need a real estate agent. Talk about the fact that sales agents are working for the builder and how, clients want to make sure buyers want to make sure their interests are protected.
Right. So especially with first-time home buyers, you walk into a new construction community and you're looking at the homes, and the agent on staff will present you with a South Carolina disclosure of agency and, saying, I represent the builder. Well, that's great. And you sign it. But as a new consumer in, looking for a home, you have no idea that means they don't represent you. Right. And while everybody in the process wants it to go well, if something happens, and I obviously can say things happen, you want to make sure that somebody is representing your best interest in the process and has your back. And super passionate about that because I feel like, first of all, it's free, right? Like my representation as your agent on the buy side is free. Why not use my expertise and my knowledge and my care for you and your family in the process to help you understand what's going on as it's going on?
And there's actually builders in town, and the ones that we've built with that actually incentivize you for having your own buyer's agent, because I think it helps them too. When
take stuff off their plate.
And so you actually get incentivized by having someone looking out for you.
Yes. And so there is obviously, a myth that you're going to get a better deal if you're not using an agent because, they're paying that agent. Builders have separate budgets for marketing and agents on the buyer side. If you're not using one, they're not going to give you a better price. Like that's not in their best interest either. They're going to keep that in the marketing dollars. and you're not going to see a better deal. And actually, what I would say all my clients would tell you is that I've been able to negotiate for them either money off the total price of the contract or additional things in the homes, like a refrigerator or blinds or, something like that, a lower lot fee or whatever it is. And so it's to their benefit. It's a win-win for everybody.
For sure. So talk about the differences between buying an existing home versus new construction.
So new construction, there's a couple different parts of it. You can go into a neighborhood and we can talk about, the type of home that you're looking for, and then see the lots that are available to build that from the ground up. Typically with builders, you're looking at a 6 to 8 month time frame, depending on how custom the home is and how many homes they're building at one time. And the price point a lot of times has something to do with that as well. So you'll go in and decide those things, come up with the base price of your home, the contract price, which consists of your lot premium. So obviously if you're getting like a bigger lot and it backs up to the woods, or you're at the end of a cul-de-sac, those lots cost more than if you're at the front of the neighborhood and you back up to other homes. So that lot premium, the base price of your house, and any structural options that you choose. So say you want a 5th bedroom instead of a study downstairs, and an additional half bath, for instance, that goes into the base contract price of the house. And that is what, as you can testify, like your lender's going to be looking at what are your overall costs of the home at that time. And then, your builder's going to set up with you a time to come back and go to the design center. You have a budget for the design center. Now, for some people, the word budget just doesn't jive and it's not part of their vocabulary, which is fine if you set the expectations up front that they will have to cut a check to the builder at that time for any overages from that budget. And typically your budget that you can spend in the design center is about 12% of that contract price. That's like a magic number, some formula that somebody inputted on a spreadsheet somewhere and came up with. Typically that's a safe point where when your home is appraised, it should appraise for that amount and nobody's going to have to chalk up some extra money at the end.
Certainly. So you're buying a $400,000 kind of a base price house.
Yes.
Give you about $50,000 maybe to make it your own.
Yes, and a lot of times, we can, depending on the builder, there are builders who are more negotiable than others. We can negotiate extra money in the design center, or depending on the time of the year, they'll have really great design center incentives for you to spend additional monies there.
Talk about like why setting the budget. Obviously we can kind of get into details of as far as the appraisal values and maybe protecting the builders, paying in cash. So
yes.
Talk about, if you buying that $400,000 house, you got $50,000 kind of a budget. What happens if you're spending, maybe over designing it and spending like $65,000?
Sure. So not only could we, like we mentioned, run into an appraisal issue at the end, if for some reason you were in that house like a year and you had to sell it a year later and you bought it for far more than anybody else in your neighborhood paid for it, we are going to run into challenges selling your home.
Right.
Yeah.
So always got to kind of be looking out for,
the what ifs.
The what ifs, right?
Yeah.
So how do you kind of have those conversations with the clients during that design stage?
From the beginning of
I
the
think
process.
Because we've all got bigger eyes and
yes.
bigger appetites than what maybe should be realistic.
Well, and especially when you run into a builder that has like a million options, and then it can be overwhelming. You have to be honest. You have to say, hey, listen, that is stunning. And I would come over and have a drink with you any day of the week in this house. I do want to warn you as your real estate advisor that God forbid you had to put your house on the market a year from now, we may run into challenges because your house is going to sell above, you've put more into it than anybody else. So are you okay with that? People appreciate honesty, even if it's not what they want to hear in that moment. You don't want to burst anybody's bubble. Just kind of slide it in there. Give a warning.
Cool. That typically goes over well.
Yeah, honestly, I never have anybody say like, well, yeah, don't tell me that, because if they call you, if you did a great job and they call you to sell their house, you want to make sure that it's going to go smoothly at that point too.
You want to be able to sell it,
yeah,
and not just have it sit on the market.
Yep.
Excellent. You're listening to Carolina's Mortgage Radio. I'm your host, Brandon Colberg. Call us anytime during or after the show, 704-999-6646. So, and listeners, if you are interested in just kind of seeing what the new construction market is, definitely give us a call. We'll get you in touch with Marissa. Marissa, any kind of outlook for the 2020 real estate market? Any changes? You talked about, how the contracts are changing every year. Any changes like that are coming that you know?
Yes, absolutely. So a couple unique changes. If you've purchased a home in the last few years, that there has been, I should say, an addendum to the South Carolina purchase agreement that is a due diligence addendum. That is now part of the contract as an option on the contract.
And it's becoming a little bit more prevalent too, yeah?
It is. There's pros and cons to it. Right. I personally wish that it would be like, North Carolina. It's either part of the contract or it's not. I kind of, that option can be iffy.
Certainly makes it easier.
Yeah. So I would say, having that in there as one of your choices. So there's a checkbox to either say we're going with the repair procedure for the contract, we're doing due diligence, or we're buying it as is. You check one of those.
Kind of go into detail about what due diligence is, because obviously it's standard and has been for a few years now in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. So those North Carolina buyers are maybe used to it. South Carolina's not.
Right.
Talk about like what due diligence is, what that looks like.
Yes. So due diligence is an option, and it replaces the repair procedure of the contract. So essentially, you're putting yourself in an as-is buying situation unless the seller agrees to make certain repairs. You offer up a fee for a specified amount of time, and that fee and the length of time is negotiable. And in that amount of time, you need to have inspections and negotiate on repairs. And if you want to walk away, you can walk away and just forfeit your due diligence fee and get the remainder of your earnest money back. So say, for instance, you put down $2,500 in earnest money and you offered up a $500 due diligence fee, and the seller accepted due diligence. Okay, because that's also a negotiating point, whether or not the seller accepts due diligence. All right. So you've been given 3 weeks for $500 to get your inspections and negotiate on repairs. So if you walk away before the end date, you get your $2,000 remaining back from your earnest money deposit, and the seller puts the home back on the market. There's pluses and minuses to it. Obviously, the seller's kind of holding their breath until everything's been negotiated on and knows that the buyer is past that date and is fully committed to the home. Because if they walk away after that date, they forfeit everything, and then they're breach of contract. So, if they're sticking with the original repair procedure part of the contract, then the seller has to make certain repairs and make sure that the roof is free of leaks, that there's no mold in the house, that, there's no plumbing leaks. Just typical major mechanical systems are working and in good repair.
So basically, all that, to sum it up, make sure you have a fantastic agent working with you to explain this, to handle the negotiation process, to work with the contracts and make sure you're well protected.
So one tricky part of that I just do want to mention is that if you don't check any of those 3 boxes, it's automatically an as-is contract.
No kidding.
Yep. So you have to really dot your I's and cross your T's. And if your BIC has not explained it to you yet, please reach out to your BIC because these are now in working order. It's our new contract.
And what, we want everybody to be experts, and true professionals in this business. The fact of the matter is they're not.
Right.
Unfortunately. I see it way too often in my business where, hey, I get a call, hey, we're supposed to close tomorrow, but the lender just told me we're not. Like, I hate that. I'm happy to help that client, but I genuinely, dislike the fact that, there's people out there who aren't experts.
Right.
Right. What does that look like for a buyer or seller when maybe not working with someone who has, your skill level and expertise? Maybe they don't check all the boxes, and now with an as-is contract, what could go wrong?
A lot can go wrong. If they're, and we see this more with people who are doing discount brokerages, unfortunately. They are out there. I tend to say you get what you don't pay for in some instances, right? So
I like it.
You're going to be cut somewhere. You're going to be stuck possibly not selling your house for a very long time, or you're going to be stuck with repairs that you don't have the money for or you didn't see coming. As a buyer, your financial future is not being protected, and you can end up having to purchase a home that, okay, financially you can afford the home, but now you can't afford the repairs that obviously need to be done in this home. So you do want someone who's going to explain it to you from the beginning.
Sure.
Yep.
You are listening to Carolina's Mortgage Radio. Call us anytime during or after the show, 704-999-6646. Always make sure you are represented by true professionals, and make sure you are being protected. Marissa, let's see. In regards to the market for 2020, what is your industry saying about 2020?
It should be interesting. The market, just like rates, it's hard to predict. We'd all
make a lot more money if we could, 100% say, right?
Crystal ball and all that. It's an election year, and I'm not going to talk politics.
Oh, come on.
But, it doesn't matter who you vote for. It's just a time of uncertainty in the country. Right. And so that does play into people's trust in the buying process. We can see rates go up and down. We can see the market for houses come to a complete standstill for a little bit because people don't know what's going to happen.
When do you there's different very small ebbs and flows now, but when do you think that uncertainty regarding the election is going to kind of pause the market a little bit? Or do you think?
I do think that, so typically we see a pause the closer we get to school starting, because, you have the rush of people who want to change into a home during the summer before school starts. And then it picks back up again after, school starts and people feel more settled in the new year. And through the end of the year, I've had some of my best months be December. And so it's, our area is, it's not a bubble. I won't say that. I don't think we're exempt from anything. I will say that we have so much growth and people still invested in that growth that I don't see it slowing down tremendously. I do think it might get a little weird after school starts. I don't know. I think it remains to be seen.
Sure. Yeah, and Fort Mill area, the greater Charlotte area, if you want to call it that, really does have a fantastic plan. We've actually talked about on the show here what the growth plan is for the area. From a local municipality, actual detailed plan on growing business, bringing business in, and of course what that does for the real estate market, grows that. Obviously, lots of new construction, which you kind of work a lot with here in the greater Fort Mill area. Certainly still going on in Charlotte as well, but more land down this way.
Yes.
To attract new construction. Any issue that you see with the current new construction trends here in the area? I mean, there's still obviously a lot of demand, right?
Yes, absolutely. There's been, some slight pushback as far as the impact fees. People still weary of how that's going. And to be honest, you know, there's
We're
still
we're waiting for the
kind of
judge,
like in
right?
the waiting process
Yeah.
of that, and different builders are handling it differently as far as cost goes, right? Like, I don't know that there's any one builder that just jacked up the price by $18,000 one day. That would not have been to their benefit. But of course, we're going to see increases, and yeah, eventually that's going to affect the resale market too, right? Because it just naturally does. In Fort Mill, the increase in value in homes is just astronomical.
It's been
We do have more townhomes being built in our area too, which, is kind of their answer to affordable housing in a sense, because, some of those are going to be in the mid twos, high twos, low threes, in keeping with our area. But for first time home buyers, that might be something that they end up looking at. So while I'm glad to see them, I just look at the footprint and think, okay, there's a lot more people per mile in those areas than there are in a single family home. And our infrastructure is still kind of like trying to play catch up.
still needs some work
Yeah,
there for sure.
it absolutely does. But I'm hopeful that it's going to keep pushing out to other areas. My mom lives in Lancaster, and I have a feeling more things are going to start fanning out that way too, like we saw with Indian Land and like Wiley and Clover. I'm a native of this area. I graduated from Rock Hill High, so I've seen a lot of change, even since in the 10 years that we've been back here, and it's exciting to see it all. But it does need to, the market as far as resale goes has started to level out a little bit too, which is nice to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, certainly, I can't imagine the changes that you've seen, growing up here. I mean, you mentioned Indian Land. I mean,
Yes.
that area.
It has exploded. And, when Fort Mill started becoming unaffordable for some people, we kind of started looking out towards Indian Land. And now Indian Land's at that price that Fort
It's
Mill
certainly getting
was
up
when
there.
it became unaffordable. So
Right.
you're having to go further out. And we're still waiting on the Jetsons cars we were promised by this time. I think if those came up,
Maybe another decade or so.
travel to work would be easier, and we could sell those further out places from the interstate. But I think it's just going to be exciting to see, and I'm hopeful for our area that we continue on the path that we're on.
I mean, it certainly seems like it. I think in a lot of ways, Fort Mill is really working to become kind of its own city. So many businesses are coming down the area. They've really got a great plan, and that starts, at the governor, and filters all the way down to state and local governments, and then of course the Charlotte Panthers relocating their headquarters, training offices down here, and got a massive plan to build around that with other homes, single family townhomes, and retail shops and restaurants. So
Yes.
Obviously we've got Kingsley going in. There's, I think, the projected to be 12 million square feet of office space within Kingsley. Right now, there's a little bit over 8 million in all of Ballantyne.
Can we
So
get
it's just
some parking
enormous.
decks?
I can't imagine why they did not do parking decks, because we've still got some restaurants to be put in yet.
Like the was the Epic Chop House?
The Chop House is still coming. Ted's Montana Grill is still coming, and there's no parking.
No, I'm like, where's the parking deck going to go? And they could take some of the, parking lots and build up, right? Like everybody knows building up is the cheapest way to go.
For sure.
But, as far as the boom in our area too, I think it's great for, jobs and people coming to our area. It's just still phenomenal to me thinking about as a kid driving through Fort Mill on my way to like my mom's work or something. She worked in Steel Creek, and we literally just took 160 all the way through. And there was one red light, and there was Village Pizza, has always and forever been there. and not a whole lot else at the peach stand. So
Yeah.
a bunch of farmland in between. And now I look at it and it's just crazy, but it's a great place. It is.
Yeah, it really is fantastic. And thank goodness for the peach town.
Yes.
That place
Oh
is
my
awesome.
gosh. Yeah.
You're listening to Carolina's Mortgage Radio. I'm your host, Brandon Colberg. Call us anytime during or after the show, 704-999-6646. Marissa, I had a lot to talk about today. We got a lot, talked about new construction, talked about kind of the market in general, and kind of, communication and how you do that with your clients and setting the
Yes.
proper expectations. Anything we kind of didn't cover during that process as far as, working with clients and kind of, why the benefits that you provide? We kind of talked about maybe when you're the disadvantages of not working with an expert. Anything we didn't cover in that?
I don't think so. I mean, really, as far as the process goes, I'm just relationship focused.
Sure.
Like I said, there's really awesome realtors in our area. I mean, we have a lot of real estate agents. Let's just be real.
A lot of real estate, but you're right. We do have some
Yeah.
very good ones. For
Yes, absolutely. And so, just when you meet somebody, I think it's just easy to kind of feel each other out and know if you're comfortable working with them. And to me, it is about the relationship. I have met some of my closest friends working with them in the process, and wherever real estate takes me, that is going to be my biggest takeaway from all of this is the relationships that I've made with people. And it's invaluable. Like, I don't take for granted that this is a huge investment for someone, whether they're buying or selling, and that I am a key player in their family for however long it takes to get them to where they need to be. So I just think that, that might set me apart a little bit from some people, but it's so hard to say that because, like I said, there's, I have some great coworkers too.
For sure, but in a lot of ways, I think there's people that you could work with that maybe even another top level agent couldn't work with, and vice versa. So I think a lot of it comes down to personality, but being at the top level is the most important thing. Are you doing everything possible to make sure your clients' interests are priority number one?
Yes.
And then maybe even more important than that is, are you able to execute on that and make sure their interests are priority number one and their interests are actually taken care of?
Yes, absolutely. I would say that is key. And, you can get people who will promise you the world, of course, and not deliver on that. But I take pride in being able to just pick up the phone and call any past client, really, and have a great conversation. And, because we have a relationship. So.
And we need more of that. Everything should be based on relationships and providing, treating your clients how you want to be treated. And I think it all starts with that. So, So fantastic. So much good information, Marissa. We appreciate you being here in studio with us.
No, thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Absolutely. So if you have questions, want to hit us up, want to talk new construction, or just kind of see what the market's doing in 2020, give us a call anytime, 704-999-6646. I'm your host, Brandon Colbert. We will catch you next Tuesday. Have a fantastic week and first week of 2020. Take care.